Hi everyone, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this episode I'm going to show you how to play the 3 to 6 player game Cutthroat Caverns by Smirk and Dagger Games. Here you're going to be playing as one of several heroes trying to claim a treasure of untold power. But before you stands 9 terrible obstacles that you and the other players are going to have to work together to defeat. The catch is that only one of you will be able to claim the final treasure and win the game. I think the box says it best. Without teamwork, you'll never survive. Without betrayal, you'll never win. At the end of the episode, I'm also going to quickly describe to you some of the different expansions that you can collect for the game. But for now, join me at the table and let's learn how to play. These are the initiative cards, and you'll keep 1 for each player, returning any extras from the higher numbers to the box. So in a 3-player game, we'll keep 1, 2, and 3, and return these. The rest of the cards are made up of 3 types. Attacks that have a red explosive background, action cards with a bluish oval, and items that show a green jewel. These cards should be shuffled thoroughly and then placed into a face-down stack within easy reach of all the players. And to start the game, each player will draw an opening hand of 7 cards. We're going to go over the different card types in a moment. But for now, if you draw any item cards, these have the green jewel symbol, just place them face up in front of you. These larger cards provide the encounters that the players must face and defeat in order to find the treasure. Shuffle these up and then take 9 randomly, returning the rest to the box. This means each time you play, you'll be facing new and different combinations of encounters. Shuffle the 9 encounters that you selected and then place them face down in the center of the table. Each player now takes any one of the character sheets. They're functionally the same, so choose the one that you like the look of the best and return the rest to the box. This is your life track, and each player starts at full health, so place a green bead on the 100 position for each character. The monster life tracker board goes on the center of the table, and then we can put a yellow bead over encounter number 1. The second yellow bead can be placed here for use later. There are prestige and a variety of other tokens as well, which you can keep on the table but just off to the side for now. So that's the setup, and now we're ready to start playing. Over the course of the game, you and your fellow heroes will be facing these different encounters. And as you defeat each one, they will award a certain amount of prestige points. At the end of the game, the player with the most prestige points that's still alive will be declared the winner, collecting the artifact of untold power and leaving the rest of the heroes in a smoldering heap. And here's the catch. Only the player landing the killing blow against an encounter will collect the prestige points of that encounter. So you may find yourself holding back, not using your most powerful strikes, allowing the other players to do most of the hard work so you can swoop in there and land the killing blow. But the problem is, the longer that these encounters are left alive, the more damage they're going to be able to do to the different heroes. In fact, some of these heroes could get eliminated from the game. Now, you might be thinking, rather shrewdly, that if some of your fellow companions meet an untimely end, all the easier for you to collect the prestige points. Yes, but some of these encounters are going to be very difficult, and you're going to need the help of your companions. So you may want to keep them alive, but just hanging by a thread. Learning when to strike and when to hold back is certainly part of the gameplay. But now, let's take a look at exactly how you play the game. First, you start the encounter by flipping over the top card of the encounter deck, and then placing this yellow bead on the monster life tracker in a position equal to its starting life, which is shown right here on the encounter card. The row across the top indicates the number of players, so in a 3-player game, this encounter will start with 150 life points. Now keep in mind, you follow this chart based on the number of players that started the game. So in a 5-player game where 2 of the heroes have been eliminated, the Ripper would still start with 240 life points when it's revealed. In this 3-player game, we'll move the life tracker to 150. You'll also want to pay attention to any special instructions written on the encounter. This one says that when a player is damaged by Ripper, remove a card at random from their hand. The name of the encounter is found here at the top of the card. Here you'll see the type of encounter. This one's a beast, and this number is the amount of prestige points that the hero landing the killing blow will collect. Remember the item cards that we talked about, the ones with the green jewels? If you wish to use one of these during this encounter, you need to declare it now, because once the combat officially starts, you will not be able to use these items. There are 2 exceptions to that rule, and we'll explain those when we talk more about these item cards. But for now, we need to determine the initiative order. This is the order in which turns will be taken. So you shuffle up the initiative cards and then deal them out one at a time to each player. I got initiative card number 1, player on my left got number 2, and the next player got player number 3. So the turn order is not based on the way in which you sit around the table, but based on the cards that you draw. Now, all at once, the players will look at the cards in their hand and each pick one attack card to put face down in front of them. Now remember, the attack cards have this red, rather explosive background, so that means you would not be able to place one of these action cards face down. Now, if you only had action cards in your hand, then in that case, you would be able to place one of them face down in front of you kind of as a bluff. People wouldn't realize that this wasn't an attack card. But once that card was revealed, you would just discard it with no effect. I think I'm going to pick this one for my attack. The card that you choose and place face down in front of you is known as your set attack card. This is important because some of the other cards will refer to that. Now you take turns in initiative order revealing your set attack card. So as player number 1, I'll reveal mine first. And if the attack is successful, we'll talk about how it could fail in a moment, then you place it face up in an area known as the damage stack. I like to put it near the encounter and the life tracker. We now check to see if the total damage in the stack is enough to defeat the encounter. We don't actually adjust the life tracker at this point. Instead, we just do a little bit of mental math here. The life tracker's at 150, so clearly my 30 attack was not enough to defeat the encounter. If I had defeated the encounter, we would skip right to the end of encounter step. But instead, play will now pass to the player next in the initiative order. So player number 2 will play their set attack card, which was a measly 10. When adding cards to the stack, always ensure that you leave the top edge of the previous cards showing so that you can easily add up the total damage. Once again, player 2 would see if a total of 40 damage was enough to defeat the encounter, and of course, it's still not. Now remember, I had said that sometimes your attacks will be unsuccessful. In other words, they won't make it to the damage stack, and that's usually because some other player is doing something to interfere with that attack. The most common way is to play an action card. Those are the ones with the blue oval. These are most commonly played out of turn, but always from your hand. In other words, you don't set them face down in front of you. Instead, you might interrupt to play them. For example, let's say that player number 2 had not yet revealed their set attack card. Just before they do, player 3 jumps in and says, "Hold on, I want to play this action card known as Edge Out." So here we have player 2's set attack card and player 3's Edge Out, which says, play on another player before they reveal their set attack card. Discard it. They may not attack this turn. After the action card is resolved, it is also discarded. Some action cards have 2 orientations, so before you play it, just pick which orientation you want to use, declare that, and then resolve the effect of that side. Discarded cards should go into a face-up discard pile. And if more than one player wants to play an action card at the same time and it's not clear what order they should be resolved in, simply resolve them in initiative order. Play will proceed until all players have had a chance to resolve their attack cards, or if the encounter has been defeated. Let's say for a moment that player 2's attack card was edged out by player 3's Edge Out action card, but then player 3 resolved their attack successfully and 40 points of damage were added to the damage stack. Well, there's no more set attack cards to resolve, so what happens next? First, we total all of the damage listed in the damage stack, in this case, 70 points, and then subtract that from the life total of the encounter. So in this case, it would go from 150 down to 80. But don't discard the attack cards just yet. Instead, check the encounter card based on the number of players and resolve that encounter's attack on the heroes. For example, in this case, we are told that player number 2 takes 10 points of damage. Well, I'm happy about that because I'm player number 1. However, when it names a character based on initiative order, like it's doing in this case, it's called a random attack. And we actually resolve the effect after the initiative has been drawn for the next encounter. So it's possible I'll draw initiative number 2 and then receive the damage here. The attack of the Lurker, however, is known as a specific attack because it's not dependent on the initiative order. You'll notice it says the Lurker attacks the player who damaged at least for 10 points in the case of a 3-player game. In this case, I played the 30 attack card. I damaged at least, so I would get hit by the Lurker. In this case, I would take the damage right away by adjusting the bead on my life points tracker. When an encounter refers to damage dealt, as the Lurker did, it's referring to the previous round of attacks. But we weren't facing the Lurker, so I'm putting that away and giving myself back those 10 life points. Well, now all set attack cards that were used are discarded. It's even possible that you set an attack card, but it gets skipped over because of some other card's effect. That set card that was not revealed should also be discarded at this time as well. Now it's time to set a new initiative order. So we take back all of the initiative cards, we mix them up, and then randomly deal them out. Player number 3 is over here. Player number 1 is over here, and that means I'm player number 2. So if there was a random attack from the previous round of attacks, which the Ripper does, it's resolved now, and player number 2 loses 10 life points. And to add insult to injury, the Ripper's effect says that if it does damage to a player, that player must discard a card at random from their hand. Okay, before we go any further, each player draws a new card. 7 cards is the maximum hand size. So if you ever have more than 7 cards, make sure you discard back down to 7 right away. And now play will continue with all the players setting their attacks and resolving them in the new initiative order until the encounter is defeated. For example, if a player adds a card to the damage stack that makes the total equal to or in excess of the life points remaining on that encounter, the encounter is defeated, and the player who landed that killing blow will receive the prestige points awarded. These points are tracked usually by placing the encounter card itself into a personal scoring pile for that player, as the prestige points are written right on the card itself, as we saw. Sometimes, though, the encounter may provide additional prestige points which can be collected as tokens. As you advance through the various encounters, eventually you will receive some bonus prestige points when you defeat the encounter there. For example, defeating encounter number 7 will award you with 3 prestige points, which would allow you to add this token to your score pile. Although you only start with 9 encounters to face, as this track suggests, it is possible that you may gain additional encounters to deal with. After prestige points have been awarded, all used and unused set attack cards from that previous round are discarded. And now players have the option to remove as many cards as they want from their hand and then draw back up to their maximum hand size, which is normally 7. Just remember, if you draw any of these green jeweled item cards, immediately place them face up in front of you. Well, now it's time to go to the next encounter, so I'll move the encounter bead down to number 2 and reveal the next encounter card. A new initiative order needs to be set, and remember, this is your chance. If you have any item cards that you would like to activate during this encounter, you'll need to announce that now. Play will proceed until all of the encounter cards have been faced and defeated, and the player with the most prestige points that's still alive is declared the winner. Now, if there's a tie, draw a new unused random encounter card from the box and face that, and continue doing so until the tie is finally broken. Sometimes heroes will die during an encounter, in which case they're out of the game and they lose all of their prestige points. You also remove the highest valued initiative card. If the player was holding any items, then after the current encounter is defeated and a new initiative order is drawn, players in initiative order may each take 1 item until they are all gone. They don't call this Cutthroat Caverns for nothing. And that's how you play the game. Now, there are a couple of side rules I'd like to go over and a couple of cards I'd like to show you that have some unique aspects to them. Occasionally, you'll face an encounter like the Wolf Pack that tells you to put out a number of wolf tokens equal to the number of players plus 1. In these cases, when assigning your attack cards, you lay them on the targeted token. You can think of each token as having its own separate damage stack where cards can be played until the total value of a stack defeats the associated token. When a token is defeated, it is collected by the player who laid the killing blow. I placed 40 damage on this wolf, which has 40 life points. So I would collect this token, and when it's flipped over, you'll see the number of prestige points that I'm awarded. If you face an encounter that comes with tokens in a later round that awards bonus prestige points, then only the player landing the killing blow on the final token will also receive those bonus points. Now let's look at some of these cards, starting with attacks, and several of them are very basic, just adding a certain amount of damage to the stack. The value at the top of the card is the normal damage that this card would apply. However, by the time a card is added to the stack, it may have been halved or doubled by some other card played. In those cases, rotate the card to the next higher number when doubling, or next lower number when halving. Just make sure the new value is showing at the top. There are also cards with special attacks. These show one of the characters from the game. If it's the character that you control, then instead of playing the card as its standard attack value, you can instead choose to play it at its enhanced special attack value. But the choice is yours. Even better, after a special attack is revealed, it cannot be targeted by blue action cards. For example, if I played Mighty Blow for 50 damage, my opponent could not use Critical Miss, which causes the attack to fail and also gives me 10 damage. You can think of special attacks as being protected in this way. Now that said, an action card like Edge Out would still work, because this is played before an attack card is revealed. Enhanced attack cards not only assign damage, but also do something else, which is written on the card itself. For example, Crowd does 20 damage, but then halves the attacks made by the next two players. So the attacks they reveal, they'll have to play at half value. Tactical maneuvers are a little different. You set them like a regular attack, but when revealed, they don't do direct damage. Instead, you resolve the text written on the card. Some are known as stand-ins because they stand in for your attack and then once revealed are replaced with new attack cards. For example, Double Strike says to immediately replace this card when revealed with two new attack cards from your hand, which are then resolved as two separate attacks. So this gives me an opportunity to see what the other players have done if I'm later in the initiative order and then decide just how powerful I want my strike to be. So I might then remove this and replace it with these two attack cards for a whopping 90 points. Or maybe I don't want to do quite so much damage, so I use my standard attack instead of my special attack from my character. Other tactical maneuvers are known as riders because instead of attacking that turn, they enhance your attack on subsequent turns. For example, Focus Strength tells us to set the card in front of us when revealed, and then on our next turn add 30 damage to the next attack we play. So if we played a 20 on the next turn, it would be as if we did 50 points of damage as a single attack. And we place these cards together on the damage stack to show this, 20 plus 30. A card like Slip Behind is a rider that multiplies the strength of the next attack, but note that while a single attack can have multiple riders that boost the attack strength, it can only have one that multiplies the attack strength. So as I said, these rider cards, when revealed, are just placed face up in front of you, waiting for the next attack card that you play in order to boost or multiply it. But if the encounter is defeated before you have a chance to play another attack card, then the rider is just discarded at the end of the encounter and it has no effect. Finally, let's look at item cards. And as we said, after you've finished drawing cards into your hand, if you have any items, they're immediately placed face up in front of you. With only two exceptions, item cards cannot be activated during an encounter. Instead, as we mentioned, you must choose to activate them once an encounter is defeated and before the first attack cards are revealed in the next encounter. The first exception to this is Alchemist's Fire, and it reminds you clearly on the card when you can use it. It says you can do this even after an encounter has started. The other exception is Amulet of Mentalism. This just has an ongoing effect that is active as soon as it comes into your possession. It tells you get to draw 2 additional cards, and now your maximum hand size is 8. Some items come into play corked, and when you decide to activate it, you turn it 90 degrees to show that it has been used. While an item is corked, it can be stolen by another player, but once uncorked, it can't be affected by cards or players. This is especially important for cards like Potion of Strength that last a certain number of rounds once uncorked. At the start of each combat round, you will rotate the Potion of Strength so you can see how many rounds are remaining before its effects wear off. Potions and Alchemist's Fire are one-use items. This just means that after they're used, instead of putting them in the discard pile, remove them from the game, put them back in the game box. Now, one exception to this is Cure Wounds. This states that if you use it to heal a companion or opponent, depending on how you're feeling about them at the time, then you are rewarded with 2 prestige points, which are marked on the card. So just keep the card in that case and put it in your scoring pile. When trying to collect prestige points from this card, it's very important to note the wording. You can only use this on a willing party member. You can't force the potion down their throats in order to collect those prestige points. You can, however, laugh when they die later because they didn't take advantage of your generosity. Now, one thing the rules mention, but they don't put a lot of focus on, is trading items. This is an option that you can use to negotiate with other players. For example, you could say to another player, "Please do not affect my attacks this turn, and I will give you this Cure Wounds card." The only catch is you have to do this trading of cards between encounters, and the contracts are binding. You have to honor your agreements. One other thing I should mention is that if you run out of cards in your draw pile, then shuffle up your discard pile and place it face down to create a new draw pile. Well, that's everything you need to know to play the game, but there's still all of these boxes behind me because these are different expansions you can add in to your game of Cutthroat Caverns, and I thought I would just take a few seconds to give you a brief overview of each of them. Deeper and Darker introduces a set of one-use special abilities unique to each character, as well as 15 new encounters and the tokens that go with them. Relics and Ruin is a larger expansion which includes a new event deck to add new challenges to older encounters. You may also be able to claim new powerful relics, giving characters game-changing abilities. And once again, there are 15 new encounters to add to the mix and a whole bunch of tokens. Tombs and Tomes adds more cards to the event deck, more relics, 15 new encounters, and of course, more tokens. But also included are 2 role-playing game-styled adventure modules that give you a story arc to follow with winning and losing conditions, new activities between the encounters. These are one-shots, but they do give you a new way to experience the game. Savage Arena and Errand of Evil are 2 more adventure modules that are bound in the same book. These also come with 2 exclusive encounter cards that can be used in your regular core games as well. And the final expansion, at least at the time of this recording, is Fresh Meat. This expansion provides an ability drafting system so you can create your own characters. It has new cards for the main deck, more relics, events, 23 new encounters, and of course, lots more tokens, but even more importantly, to some, a giant box that will store the core set and the entire line of expansions. And that is Cutthroat Caverns. A lot of Cutthroat Caverns. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. And consider subscribing to our channel because in a future episode, we're going to actually play through just a couple of the encounters so you can get an idea of what it feels like to play this game. But until the next episode, thanks for watching.